Hey everybody. So today we are going to be talking about kind of a heated topic, at least for me. So we are going to be talking about the most recent Star Wars trilogy. I'm sorry, my hair, because it's winter time, my hair likes to static. It just floats around my face, so I'm like constantly like, oh, get it away from my face. Anyway, most recent Star Wars trilogy. So that is The Force Awakens is the first one, I think. The Last Jedi is the second one, and then The Rise of Skywalker is the last one. Now, a lot of good has come out of the trilogy, but also it was terrible. Can we just say that? It was probably the worst. And I know a lot of people have feelings about the prequel trilogy. I love the prequel trilogy, and maybe that says something about me because my friends say that it says something about me. But I love it, okay? Because so much of what I love about Star Wars, well, okay, the original trilogy are without a doubt the absolute best, iconic, okay? But I love the prequels because a lot of the stuff in the prequels uh became other things that I also really love. Like the Clone Wars is great, and the Clone Wars TV show that came after that is great. The Bad Batch came from that. That's my favorite show of all time. I know people think the midi-chlorians thing is dumb, but it's also utilized throughout many different series in interesting ways. Like maybe it was dumb in, the prequels, and the fact that Anakin was like born from midi-chlorians or whatever, weird kind of like messiah, if you will. I feel even weird saying that, but like not to be sacrilegious in any way, but like clearly he's like supposed to be this chosen one, and George Lucas wanted it to maybe parallel something that's real, which, a lot of mythos and stories will do that, so it's not like it's unheard of, but anyway. There's a lot of weird things in the prequels. I'm with you on that, but we did get pod racing. We did get midi-chlorians, which are interesting and used in other forms of media. And of course, we got the clones and the Clone Wars, which I really liked, and I really think that's interesting. And a lot of characters during that time era that are also really interesting. So to me, anyway, we're not talking about that one. But the most recent one is the absolute worst. I don't even know what to call it other than the most recent one. I guess the Rey one. I don't know, like the Rey Star Wars trilogy. I don't know, because you have the originals and the prequels, and then this one. I don't know what to call it. The Rey one. I don't know. Now there are a lot of good things in this trilogy that I do like. I like a lot of the characters. I like Rey, I like Poe, I like Finn. I think they're all interesting. I think they are completely underutilized, specifically Poe and Finn, obviously, especially Finn after a while. But there's a lot of good groundwork there. The first one had so much potential, and though I don't think it really wowed me, I liked it a lot, and I felt like, okay, well, this is going somewhere at least. I even, I liked Kylo Ren. I mean, I always thought that he was really whiny for a villain. Like, he was nothing like Darth Vader. He was not intimidating like Darth Maul or Palpatine or Darth Vader. So, like, I was kind of like, I mean, I'm not scared of him. He doesn't intimidate me, but, he's got that angry incel energy. So I was kind of like, okay, well, this could go somewhere still. And I did like that he was like desperate to be like Darth Vader and clearly was missing the mark. So, I mean, there was something there. And of course, him killing his father, Han Solo, that was quite a blow. But honestly, the villain that intrigued me the most, or at least I felt like was probably the scarier of the two, was Hux, Admiral Hux, or I don't know, I can't remember what his title was. General Hux. I don't remember what his title was. I just call him Hux. But he's the Weasley, if you follow Harry Potter. No, but I really like that he had this. First of all, he didn't really like Kylo Ren. I like the animosity between them, but also that he is very much. I mean, obviously, we know the First Order and pretty much even like the Stormtroopers, the Empire from before, is very like. There's themes of Nazism and dictatorship, different dictatorships. I wouldn't say necessarily Nazism, but definitely dictatorship, right? That's the whole point. It's like, the iron fist. It's not gonna let go. But I feel like in this one and in the first movie, Hux had that speech before all of the First Order troopers on that planet that they end up fighting. It's like right at the end of the movie. And his speech was so, just gave me so much like Nazi vibes, and it was so intimidating. And I was like, oh, I'm actually, this guy is scary. Like, there you go. And Kylo Ren was busy running around the forest playing Jedi with Rey. So, like, he wasn't even there for that. But yeah, I thought he was really interesting and had a lot of potential, and I was intrigued to see where he would go. Like, is he going to be like Grand Moff Tarkin? Like, are we going to get that kind of evil energy, but maybe he's going to live longer and cause more problems, or more issues even within Kylo Ren, and maybe ultimately become more of the villain kind of thing. I mean, we also had that guy. Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember. I have watched these movies a few different times, sometimes willingly, sometimes unwillingly, but I don't remember a lot of the names anymore because it's been a little while. Okay, let me look up this guy's name because it's going to be a little bit silly if I don't know his name. But the guy who is really he's like Kylo Ren's guy. Oh, that's so embarrassing. He's like kind of like leading the whole thing, but he also dies like really early on in the film. So I couldn't understand why that happened. Anyway, there's a lot of reasons. Maybe I won't look this up. I don't know if it'll have his name anywhere easy to see it. Is the problem. All right, there's Andy Serkis. I know Andy Serkis played him, which go Andy Serkis, by the way. I love the Lord of the Rings, so I'm always like, that's my guy. That's my guy. Of course it's not saying, oh, Snoke. That's it. Supreme Leader Snoke. Okay, first of all, Snoke was stupid. And I stand by that, even if Andy Serkis did play him. Snoke was a really dumb idea. Okay. So the first movie had lots of potential. There was interesting things happening, and I was kind of like, okay, well, this is going to go somewhere. Then cut to the next movie. Different director. We had J.J. Abrams over here on the first movie. I don't remember. I have no recollection as to why they decided to midway switch directors. This is obviously Disney's fault. But they went with Rian Johnson. I think that's how you say his name. I like Rian Johnson. I liked the second movie. Okay. I felt like, even though there were a lot of problems, don't get me wrong, I felt like it was still going in the direction it was meant to go in, and it was going to be good. Okay. And basically, from the first one, we know it has a lot of similar themes of almost every Star Wars, especially the original trilogy, where Rey is like this nobody on this desert planet. She doesn't know her origins. She doesn't have her parents. She's orphaned, all of this. She's deals in scrap and just tries to survive. And then turns out she has force powers, and then Finn is a stormtrooper, like an ex-stormtrooper who, because he had feelings, and he's like, oh, wait, I don't actually want to be a stormtrooper. I don't want to kill people. I want to get out of here, but I know I'll get executed if I leave. So he kind of finds a way to sneak out. Him and Rey get together, and they try to get off. And Poe comes in at some point. He's been with the rebellion. Now he's with the resistance, I think they call themselves. And so anyway, that's the trio. We got the trio. And it's even a similar type of trio to the originals, where we had one lady and two dudes. Okay. So, it had a lot of potential, and Rey was starting to learn how to use her force powers, but she needed to find a master to teach her, right? And there wasn't any really masters around. So in the second one, she's trying to find Luke Skywalker. That's kind of where this is going. I mean, Leia's there, but Leia's like, go find him, whatever. And so her whole thing in the second one is trying to find Luke. And a lot of people had an issue with the portrayal of Luke. I also agree with that. I think him being like a hermit on an island is weird. And him being so grumpy. I mean, I don't really mind that he's grumpy. A lot of bad things happen, but like, I just feel like it was very un Luke of him. And I think even the actor himself said that this was not how he would have portrayed Luke, but he's an actor, so he just does his job, right? So I'm not saying Rian Johnson did like a great job at portraying these characters, but he kept up with the theme of Rey being a nobody and having force powers and becoming like a hero, right? So I love that theme because, in the originals, obviously the Skywalkers have this legacy of being amazing force users because of Anakin, right? And then in the prequels, I mean, I guess Anakin actually just popped up out of nowhere, popped up out of midichlorians, and he, it's about him and his story of becoming that, and then the originals are about his children kind of taking, on his legacy in a better way. Obviously, the legacy that he should have had, you know what I mean? And so this one is, kind of like that in a way, but Rey was from nothing, and Kylo Ren on the opposite end of the spectrum is from the legacy of the Skywalkers, right? So it would have been like, well, yeah, he's a Skywalker. He's also a solo, but he's a solo Skywalker. Okay. And so he had this legacy that he wanted to achieve, and he had a legacy in the Force, but Rey had nothing. Like, you didn't even know who her family was. I think pretty much in the second one they just say, your family just ditched you there, and they didn't really go into descriptions. I always thought her family there was gonna be more made of them, but the idea was that she was being protected from something. And that's kind of why her family left, I think, in the end. So even though they did ditch her, it was for like a good reason, and she doesn't really know why, and da 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 da. And of course, me at the time, I was like contemplating like maybe she was trying to protect them from dark force users or things like that. Maybe they had an inkling that she was going to become something special, et cetera, et cetera. So I still liked where it was going. And I still really like the dichotomy between Kylo Ren and Rey, where she is from nothing, but is still very powerful. And Kylo Ren is from a legacy of Force users, and yet he can't even like get a grip on his emotions because he is feeling a lot of things, and because of that he is just not really competent with his Force usage because he's trying to be somebody that he's not. He's trying to be Darth Vader, and not, it's not working for him because I guess he's not all that bad on the inside. Well, I don't know. He's definitely annoying, that's for sure. Kylo Ren is the worst. But there were still interesting things happening. I loved the fight on that planet with the red sand. It's like at the end, and Kylo Ren is like, shoot him, because Luke Skywalker is just walking over. And so they're like shooting everything, and all of this dust is flying up in the air, and it looks awesome. I mean, visually insanely gorgeous. Okay. And I love that Hux is there. Hux and Kylo Ren still going at it and like fighting each other, love that. I think Snoke is there. I don't think Snoke dies in this one, but spoiler alert, he does die. Oh, and Rose. How can I speak about this when I'm not speaking about Rose? Rose is from the first one. She's like a resistance fighter. Her sister dies. She goes trying to carry on her sister's legacy. She kind of has a thing for Finn and all this. And in the second one, she's really cool. And I just was like, okay, this is great. We're all paired off with different teams. We're going to go, we have a general direction of what we're trying to do. We're going to stop Kylo Ren. We're going to stop the First Order. We're going to stop Hux. We're going to find other Force users maybe and save them. And Rey is going to be like this shining beacon to people who maybe come from nothing, that they could still be something, and the power of the Force could be in them, and they could fight their oppressors, right? That kind of is where it felt like it was going. And I think in the second one, there was a lot of other weird stuff. I mean, there was like this whole like blockade. I don't know if that was the second or third one. I don't know. The third one I've watched the least because I hate it the most. But anyway, at some point there's a big blockade of people that are trying to escape, and they don't. And anyway, Poe was behind that. Poe is problematic a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. He's just annoying, But the thing is, in this series of Star Wars movies, there were so many things that felt like nothing. And I think that's why I don't remember most of that. Like, I'm like, okay, well, Chewie almost got killed, but then he didn't. You know what I mean? Although they tried to make us believe that Chewie was killed for a while, but he didn't, And then, like, that whole blockade with all those people trying to escape the planet. Like, I don't even remember any of that. I just remember Poe being a problem during most of it. Like, it's such a there's so much nothing that happens in these movies. And then the third one comes along, and Rian Johnson is out, and J.J. Abrams is back in. Why? I don't know. Maybe Disney did not like what Rian Johnson did. Maybe Disney listened to the fans. Again, I don't know how they could have done that in short notice without planning, because I know there was years between these movies, but like, you think like, do you really have time to hear first of all, why are you listening to the fans? Don't listen to the fans. If you're listening to the fans, you are not going to be able to tell a proper story, because people are going to grumble about everything imaginable. Okay. They're going to have a problem with anything. If I, as a writer, listened to, and I'm not saying don't listen to good feedback, listen to good feedback, of course, but do that before you're like in the process of making a series of films that should all cohesively go together. Like, do that first and then come back. Like, find one director to work with all of these films to make it a cohesive project, instead of being like, oh, I think the fans like that one better, oops, uh-oh, like, I don't fully understand what happened there, but I know it was stupid. And because why are you like, when movies or TV shows start to listen to fans more than wanting to make sense of their story, it becomes a problem, okay? Because fans are, again, going to complain about everything. And I'm not saying that every TV show or movie makes a good decision in their writing regardless, but like, I would rather it be cohesive and maybe be a little bit annoying or messy than it be uncohesive. So these films are completely uncohesive, in my opinion, especially when you get to the last film. J.J. Abrams comes back in. Clearly, J.J. Abrams, from the beginning, had a plan of what he wanted to do with the films. I don't know why they didn't go with it, because at least then it would have made sense and we would have seen it coming. And we wouldn't have had this, because Rian Johnson wanted to go along with this idea of Rey coming from nothing and becoming something, right? And having that rivalry with Kylo Ren. But J.J. Abrams wanted Rey to have a Force like ancestry, kind of. And so she becomes Rey Palpatine, we find out in the third film. Worst, stupidest decision ever. And as much as I love seeing a lot of the old actors back, especially knowing that that was Carrie Fisher's final film that we got to see her in, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. I love you. I think you're amazing. But it was stupid. Having Palpatine come back was stupid. Not that I don't mind necessarily that he was alive somewhere. I think that's kind of fun. And honestly, the best part of the movie was that final planet, the Sith planet that they go to, where Palpatine and his clones were hanging out. I don't know, and like all of his like little friends in the black robes. Like, that was fun. Aesthetically, it was cool to look at. I wasn't expecting it, so that was great. That was definitely my favorite part. But that's the end of the movie. And if the favorite part is the end of the movie, then it's probably not good. Also, they tried to give Kylo Ren a redemption arc and a romance with Rey in the final movie. There was no chemistry between them, by the way. I don't care what anybody says. There was zero chemistry from the start to the finish. No chemistry. And yeah, they tried to give him a redemption and it was horrible. And that's not how you do it. That's not how you do it. But at least he's dead. I guess there's that. At least that character won't be coming back, presumably, unless they do a Palpatine. But yeah, no, the worst. So basically, all that I remember happening in this film is they go to a lot of locations to find a lot of things. Rey has like a moment of thinking she's gonna turn dark side. She finds out she's a Palpatine and she freaks out even more because, Palpatine, not a good guy. And then she realizes that her parents were trying to hide her from Emperor Palpatine because he wanted to use her. So that's why her parents abandoned her. And, now she has to try to be a force for good and she wants to be a Skywalker. She doesn't want to be a Palpatine. And so she goes to fight Grandpa, and he's a weak husk of a man, so it's not that hard, although he still has a lot of his power, I guess. So I mean, there's some potential there. The Supreme Leader Snoke gets killed at some point because he's nothing. He's literally another cloned thing that Palpatine had some hand in. I mean, it's just so stupid to say, oh, everything was Palpatine, like at the end, just because, when there's no sign of him throughout any of the other two films that went by. Nothing. He wasn't in, not even mentioned. Okay, not even mentioned. And I get that maybe if J.J. Abrams had done the second film, he probably would have hinted to it. But I'm sorry, J.J. Abrams, why do you have to be so egotistical as to be like, oh, everything that Rian Johnson did. All right, we're starting from where I left off and we're going to move forward. And I'm going to fix everything that you did. And I'm not going to pay attention to anything that you did. And by the way, we're writing out Rose because nobody likes Rose, which is stupid. And Finn maybe has Force powers. Ugh. And also Finn loves Rey, maybe. I It's so stupid. When I tell you it's so stupid, if you've seen it, you know it's so stupid. But yeah, so anyway, the film's just it ends poorly. It ends with her being on Tatooine burying like the old lightsabers, which why would you do that? Why wouldn't you hold on to them? Because they're kind of important. You could use them. Like lightsabers being passed on to like the next generation is actually pretty important. I mean, Ben Kenobi, old Ben Kenobi, he held on to Anakin's lightsaber to pass it on to Luke. Like, why would you not? Okay, and then she's like, "I'm gonna be a Skywalker now. Okay, bye." And it's like, I mean, that's fine if you want to be adopted by a better family, even though neither of them adopted you. That's fine. You can change your name. I don't think it even matters in Star Wars land. Like you can do whatever you want. But yeah, she should never have been a Palpatine in the first place. If she had come from nothing and nowhere and she decided that she wanted to be a Skywalker, I think that would have been more impactful than her being a Palpatine and then deciding to be a Sky. It's so stupid. Are you with me, people? Like, what is happening? Um, the best thing that came out of this series is of movies is probably Star Wars Land, Galaxy's Edge, and Disney World and Disneyland and other Disney locations. I've been to the one in Disney World. It's amazing. It is so much fun. And I've seen Rey. I've seen Kylo Ren. I've been on Rise of the Resistance, the ride. Everything about that is so much fun, and it's so Star Warsy, and it's so great. I know a lot of people would rather the original be something to do with it, but I don't really. That doesn't bother me. Okay. And even some of the things that happen in these films or the characters, I do like. I like the character of Rey. I like I said, I like Poe. I like Finn. I like Rose. I like a lot of these characters. I just think that the execution was extremely poor. Uh, there was battling directors, and that just doesn't work. And and it was a stupid premise. Like I don't know. Like even if J.J. Abrams had done the whole thing, maybe the second movie would have been extremely different in a way that was interesting and would have introduced Palpatine earlier and then introduced the idea that she had to kind of deal with the fact that she was a Palpatine and maybe Snoke would have been knocked out much earlier because who cares? And maybe Chewie wouldn't have had that scare almost dying thing because that was kind of pointless as well. Like sure, maybe it would have been better, but that's not what we got. What we got was a mishmash of ugh, gross. And I think the main problem is that in the past, with the originals and the prequels, we only had one director, and he was the original visionary, George Lucas. And I'm not saying George Lucas is like a perfect director, but I'm saying when you have one director to give you a vision, and when this vision is literally your own creative process, it's so much smoother. Everything makes mostly sense. And again, I know people don't like the prequels. I love them. Deal with it. I'm not saying, and like, I know that the acting is really cheesy, really weird, and sometimes really bad, but I love it, okay? And at least, again, it's cohesive, and we get why Anakin is the way he is, and we get why the war is happening. Everything is cohesive. It makes sense. But with this one, not cohesive, not make sense. Very sad, very stupid. And the most heinous thing they did in the third movie, which I was furious about, was making Hux, instead of actually being an Imperial agent, like an Imperial officer, he's actually a double agent from somewhere else that infiltrated the Empire to for some reason, I don't know, to help the resistance, but not really. It was more like it seemed like he was making it out like it was for his own means, but like he wanted to help the resistance. And that's why he was so opposed to Kylo Ren. No, absolutely not. Hux, no. And if that was J.J. Abrams' plan from the start, then that's stupid, J.J. Abrams. But to make him out to be such a villain and such a loyal follower of the Empire or the First Order, and then to say, oh, just kidding, he's actually been a double agent this whole time, when there's been no indication of him being a double agent at all, and it's literally just them telling you he's a double agent. He hasn't even done anything that makes you think of a double agent. Like, no, that is bad, bad, bad writing. Bad writing. You can't just show us, don't tell us, bro. Like, give us a hint, okay? Clearly, Rian Johnson had no desire for Hux to go this route. And maybe, again, if J.J. Abrams had done the second movie, we would have seen something happen, whatever, because clearly this was his plan. But for him to just come out and say that, and then minutes later, by the way, minutes later, he is found out and executed by General Pride or Admiral Pride or whoever he is, because Admiral Pride is now the villain in the First Order. Ugh, we don't even know this guy. Why would I care about hating Admiral Pride? Why would I care? I haven't been with him for 3 movies. Where I've been with Hux for 3 movies, and I know he's bad, and I know he's a freak, and I know he hates good things, and he's an evil bad guy, and I want to see his demise. You know what I mean? Like in the best, like with any bad guy, you want to see the bad guy lose. But I like him as a villain because he's shown himself to be like so involved and so in, and you're just going to kill him and give us another guy that we will also see die, but we have no animosity towards. Excuse me? Like, this is not how you do villains. And also the whole thing with Kylo Ren, also basically just getting some sort of random redemption arc, but barely any lead up to it. Like, it just, nothing mattered in the third movie. Nothing that had been built up mattered. It was just a mishmash of J.J. Abrams trying to make things go his way. And, but it had already gone another way, and he wasn't willing to go with the flow, and that's stupid. Because I think Hux should have just gone down in a blaze of glory. Like, Pirates of the Caribbean 3 at World's End, when Beckett is the bad guy of the East India Trading Company, is literally his ship is exploding around him and there's music playing and he's just walking down the stairs as the ship explodes around him, and he knows he's going to die, but he's just straight faced and just walking down the stairs, and then boom, it all explodes around him and he dies. That's what I wanted for Hux, okay? Because Hux was that kind of evil. Hux was the kind of evil that is trying to make business deals, trying to, like, just work his way up the corporate ladder to gain more power. That was the kind of villain that Hux was shown to us as, okay? He was just a guy that wanted more power than he deserved, okay? And I wanted to see him explode in his Star Destroyer, but instead, that role was given to Pride. And for what? Why? Why do we care about him? He was in barely one film. It's just bad writing, okay? It's just bad writing. And as a writer, I would rewrite all of these films in such a different way. And I mean, the first one is fine. That's the establishment, and I thought it was fine. And there was many things in the second one that I would probably keep because, again, I thought it was fine. But there's character things I would definitely change. But otherwise, I think the direction of the story was fine. And in the third movie, you just had to keep moving in that direction. You could have had the cool Sith planet. That could have been still the end game. And Palpatine could have still been the end game if you really wanted that. But, like, just don't sabotage every other character because you don't like them. Bruh. Anyway, those are my feelings. I wonder if you have strong feelings about these films. Like I said, as a writer, and I'm not saying I'm a great writer or anything. I still consider myself an amateur writer. I have a lot to learn, but excuse me, I just ate ice cream. But I am a published author at this point, and it took a long time to get to that point of being a published author. Years actually of editing, re-editing, re-editing again, fixing old things, making things cohesive, removing gaps in, like, because sometimes when you're writing something, you don't really think about it. You're just going with the flow of imagination, right? Your creative flow. And then when you read back over it, you're like, okay, cool, this is great. And then you have somebody else read it and they're like, wait, but how did this happen? How did this jump to this? Like, what happened here? Do we get more details in that later? Or did you just forget to put that in there? And then you have to be like, oh snap, I didn't, because in my head, I know everything that's happening. It's my own little creative world, but they might not know. And so missing a gap of information for them is a really big gap. Whereas for me, it's not, because I'm like, oh, well, I know where that's going to go eventually. So even though I may not want to give them all of the information because maybe it's tea for later, I need to still find a way to bridge that gap so they don't feel like they're missing an entire piece of plot. And with these directors or writers or whoever was in charge of this, Disney, is this your fault? You're going to get it, buddy. Well, it is their fault no matter what. But you still didn't bridge a lot of gaps for us. And in fact, instead of bridging gaps, you bombed the bridges because you were like, oh, here's an interesting character. Boom, gone. You know, the fans didn't like this one. Boom, gone. Like, and also, I have to say, this is probably, and I know a lot of people complained when the prequels first came out too. Star Wars fans, can we just enjoy things? I just wonder. And I know I'm complaining. I know. I know I'm complaining. But I would never take it out on the actors because the actors don't have any say. And I know Rose's actor, who I'm afraid I don't remember her name at the moment, but she's amazing. She basically got shredded to pieces because of her role, and that is stupid, and we as humans should not do this to each other. It doesn't make sense. She's literally an actor, and you know what, I bet you she was insanely excited when she got the role of Rose, a resistance fighter in the Star Wars franchise. Do you know how insane? I would lose my mind if I was an actor. That is the dream role. And then for the fans to literally make it a nightmare for her and harass her on the internet and harass her like all over the place and say heinous things to her because of her role in Star Wars, which probably put an extreme damper on how she viewed this role to the point where she probably didn't even want to be a part of the project. That's sick. That's sick. And I know people did that to the actor who played Jar Jar Binks too. Y'all are sick because I remember him saying that he almost like gave away his life um because of that role. And that's freaking sick. Dude, Star Wars is supposed to be fun. It's a place where we can let our imaginations run wild and there's so many ways that it can go. You can see that in a lot of the TV shows that come out now, like Skeleton Crew or The Bad Batch or I don't know, Andor. There's a lot of Star Wars shows out now. The Mandalorian. There's so many creative ways that this world can go, and for you to make certain actors' lives miserable because of a role that they played that they were probably so excited to play just because you think they're annoying is really depressing. You know, we as human beings, there's so much hate and evil in this world. Why can we not be kind and enjoy the creative worlds that are made by other people? It's a gift from God. It's truly a gift from God that we can have that we have these creative minds and we can create these amazing stories and share them with each other. And actors make that real for us. And the fact that you can't even appreciate that is really upsetting. But I'm not going to go in any more than that. I just think, why do we do this? I feel really bad for that girl, and I hope her acting career is going well, and I hope she still has fond memories to look back on with being in that Star Wars film. But I just think that those three films, the last trilogy, the Last Jedi series, or whatever it's called, Force Awakens, I think that a lot of different things really dampered my enjoyment of it. Not just the writing, but also all of the hatred towards the films that was going on. Because, like, as much as I complain about them, and there's a lot of problems with them, technically, I don't hate them by any means, and certainly don't hate any of the actors for participating in it. I have problems with Disney and J.J. Abrams, and maybe even Rian Johnson if he had a issue with he made it more complicated. I don't know, but I still think that even though these powers that be maybe didn't do a great job with it, they're still human beings. We're all going to make mistakes and make bad decisions, and unfortunately they did it on a large scale and with a franchise that is really well loved, but it's still fun to watch now and then. I still can't watch the last one. It annoys me too much, but sometimes the other ones are fun to watch. And regardless, I have so much other Star Wars content I can watch. So if you hate it, just don't watch it, dude. That's what I'm telling you. If you don't spend money on it, don't enjoy it. It's fine. Don't go there. Just don't go there. And you know, there's a lot of Star Wars stuff that I don't like watch at all. Like there was like a recent show, The Acolyte or something, that I refused to engage with because of just how it sounded. And thankfully my refusal, my brother watched it and he was like, yeah, it was terrible. And I was like, nice, I didn't waste my time. But see, that's all you have to do, my friends. You don't have to send hate to the actors or the director or anybody. You can just peacefully not engage. So that's my request to you. And I mean, if you want to say something about like, because like my main complaint here is just the writing and the destruction of what could have been a really great story. because I love stories and I think stories are fun. And as a writer, watching it was painful because you could see where the direction was supposed to go and where they decided to just flip it around. I hope in the future that if they do another trilogy, which is kind of being talked about vaguely, um, that they pick one director and one set of writers to work on it so that they can move forward in a very cohesive way that makes sense. Where would they go with this in the future? I really have no idea. I don't know if they would go directly after Rey's story and maybe see where Rey is going forward, or does Rey open like another Jedi facility of some kind? And maybe the story of a Jedi that she trained or her Padawan or something like that. I genuinely at this point have zero ideas. There's so many ways it could go, but regardless, I just hope it's one cohesive leadership that leads the story. And in the meantime, there's so many other things you can enjoy, like the TV shows I mentioned. There's video games that are really fun. Jedi Fallen Order is probably one of the best. But I know there's like a recent Smugglers one out recently. I don't know. I'm not good at stealth games, and I heard there's a lot of stealth in that game. But the Fallen Order is really fun, and there's a sequel to that which I haven't played yet. But yeah, there's so much content out there that you can enjoy. So find what you enjoy. Don't send hate to anybody. If you don't like, or feel free to complain about things that are bad about something that you enjoy, but not to the detriment of good people who are just doing their jobs. Because even like me complaining about this, I still will not take it out on J.J. Abrams or Rian Johnson personally. I'm not going to go up to them, tell them I have a problem with them. I'm just venting, and I think it's good to vent. It's okay to vent, but don't say heinous things to people. Don't call people names. Not that I think anybody here would, but anyway, just putting my 2 cents out there because that was a terrible thing that happened to Rose. So anyway, and the guy who played Jar Jar Binks. I don't know his name though. But anyway, so that's my 2 cents on the most recent Star Wars trilogy. It's not good, but there were fun things in it and fun things that came out of it, and I think that I hope that in the future they do a better job. And tell me what you think. What's your favorite Star Wars trilogy? Did you like the most recent Star Wars trilogy? And if so, tell me what you liked about it. Um, what is your favorite Star Wars show? My favorite is The Bad Batch, as I've said, but I also really did like Skeleton Crew. That was pretty fun. Yeah. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So just remember, I love you and Jesus loves you more. And I hope to hear from you guys about what you think. All right. Bye.